And now the news in detail. Central Committee members of Nepal Communist Party have expressed concerns regarding the American aid program Millennium Challenge Corporation. Most of the Central Committee leaders have opined that party needs to come up with a comprehensive statement regarding MCC grant. The meeting has been taking place with the participation of Central Committee members in 15 different groups. The Central Committee members have demanded the party to come forward with a clear opinion regarding the MCC grant that can also be agreed upon by the lower committee members of the party.
एउटा अध्ययन समूह जस्तो बनाएर अलिक व्यापक यसमा अध्ययन गरेर हैन एउटा निश्चित खालको धारणा बनाउने हो कि भन्ने खालको कुराहरु छ। महाकालीको विषयले हाम्रो पार्टी फुटेको अवस्था छ। दुनियामा अहिले पनि के चर्चा छ भनेर भन्दा एमसीसीएलले नेकपालाई यही खालको ठाउँमा लैजान्छ कि भनेर भन्ने खालको कुरा छ।
On a different context, members have also demanded the party to ensure the correct women representation in the party. 33% reservation in all levels to increase women participation was also voiced in the meeting. Border dispute was another issue that caught central members' attention. Participants of the meeting stressed on solving the border dispute from the diplomatic, political and citizens level.
सीमा विवाद छ लिखित रूपमै हामीले चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ पेश गरेका छौं जो हाम्रो चाहिँ छिमेकीसँगको सीमा विवादको सम्बन्ध तीन तरिकाले चाहिँ हल गर्नुपर्छ।
The meeting will continue today afternoon as well. Rashtriya Prajatantra Party has declared the ruling government led by Nepal Communist Party as a complete failure. RPP has declared the government unsuccessful in honoring its political manifesto, said Kamal Thapa at RPP's Central Committee meeting yesterday. The report submitted by Chair Thapa states that government has failed to meet people's expectations and has also failed to deliver on its promises of economic development and progress of the nation. Although government has set up some good example in infrastructure development, NCP-led government has malfunctioned in promoting foreign investment, creation of employment, control of corruption, curbing business loss, and improvement in the field of health education, said Chairman Thapa.
राज्य सञ्चालनको हरेक पक्षमा सरकार असफल प्रमाणित भएको छ। देश र जनताको विश्वास जित्ने गरी सरकारले सकारात्मक परिवर्तनको अनुभूति दिन सकेको छैन। पूर्वाधार विकासको क्षेत्रमा केही कार्यहरू भए तापनि आर्थिक समृद्धिको निमित्त अनिवार्य शर्तको रूपमा रहने लगानी प्रवर्धन, रोजगारी सृजना, भ्रष्टाचार नियन्त्रण, व्यापार घाटाको न्यूनीकरण, शिक्षा र स्वास्थ्यको गुणस्तर अभिवृद्धि गर्ने सन्दर्भमा सरकार पुरै असफल भएको छ।
Businessmen, bureaucrats and political leaders have all formed an alliance to engage in bribery, corruption, Chairman Thapa further stated. The situation has also worsened because even laws and policies are amended for corrupts to get their way, Thapa added. The meeting will last for 2 days and discussions on preparation of a general convention, economic report and other programs. Former President Dr. Baran Yadav says the reason for the failing education sector in the country is because of the lack of uniformity. Dr. Yadav said so while addressing the Golden Jubilee anniversary of Tribhuvan Higher Secondary School in Tanahu. Dr. Yadav further added that the existence of double standards in education is the plight of all the younger generation who are currently pursuing education. Dr. Yadav said at present at least 80% of all children do not have access to quality education. Dr. Yadav said it is imperative that now all leaders, federal parliament and all 3 levels of the government must work together to change the face of education sector in the country. This is Janata Bulletin. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back after the break, and now the news from and the other national news. Tripper attacks have caused outrage in the public for brutally running over people. Situations at Chepetar of Gorkha Municipality 10 became intense after a tripper killed a woman in an accident yesterday. 52-year-old Manamaya Tamang, a local of Amalapani, Gorkha Municipality 10, was hit by a tripper with the number plate GO 1 Kho 8027. Tamang had only sustained minor injuries before the tripper intentionally ran her over. The agitated locals have vandalized 20 tippers and 6 excavators after the incident. The tipper that killed the women has also been set ablaze. Crusher building and buildings used as a labor's residence has also been vandalized by the locals. The victim's family and locals have demanded to stop the crusher operated and to provide compensation to the victim's family. CDO of Gorkha district, Devendra Lamichhane, said investigations are underway to resolve the issue. And now the news from the economic front. The cabinet meeting held on Monday has granted permission to the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation to table a bill to split the Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal, CAN, at the Federal Parliament. The cabinet has allowed the ministry to table the CAN bill and Nepal Civil Service bill to the parliament. Following the cabinet's approval, CAN will split into two different entities, a regulatory body and an air navigation service provider. In 2012, the government had formally announced that CAN would be divided into two separate autonomous entities. The government has said the split will improve CAN's regulatory mechanism and also aid in developing civil aviation infrastructure of the country. CAN was established 22 years ago and it has its own Civil Aviation Act. As per the Act, it has been working on aviation services and safety, air transport and surveillance, as well as development of airport infrastructure. European Union has blacklisted Nepal's aviation sector, citing safety concerns issued by International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO. EU has provided Nepali carriers to enter its airspace since December 2013. However, the ICAO has already removed Nepal from its significant safety concern list. ICAO provided a certificate of safety assurance to CAN after Nepal assured of flight safety in July 2017. The EU is also a member of the ICAO and Nepal has been trying to convince the Union to lift its ban on Nepali carriers. Time for a short break here at Janata Bulletin. Stay tuned for international news. Welcome back, and now the international news. Britain on Friday ended almost half a century of integration with Europe, finally making its historic departure from the EU to begin a new but still uncertain future with emotions running high following years of wrangling and several false starts. As the clock struck 2300 hours GMT, midnight in Brussels, Britain became the first country to leave the 28-member bloc since 1973. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has backed Brexit since the 2016 referendum that triggered deep bitterness and division. But he has promised to unite the country in a new era of prosperity. This is not an end but a beginning, BBC reported Johnson as saying. Britons will be able to work in and trade freely with EU nations until December 31st and vice versa, although the UK will no longer be represented in the bloc's institutions. And while the exit terms have been agreed, Britain must still strike a deal on future relations with the EU, its largest trading partner. Both set out on their negotiating positions from Monday. The hanging of 4 men scheduled for Saturday for a notorious gang rape and murder on a Delhi bus in 2012 has been postponed until further orders, a court ruled on Friday. The brutal attack on Jyoti Singh sparked weeks of demonstrations and shone a spotlight on the alarming rates of sexual violence and the plight of women in India. 4 men were convicted in 2013 and were due to be hanged simultaneously on Saturday at 6 a.m. in India's first execution since 2015. A fifth, the suspected ringleader, was found dead in a jail in a suspected suicide, while a 17-year-old accomplice spent 3 years in a juvenile detention center. The delay was because some of the men still have legal options to appeal their sentences, including mercy petitions with the Indian president. All are, however, widely expected to fail, with support for the execution appearing to be overwhelming within Indian society and among political parties. Widespread horror sparked nationwide demonstrations and led to tougher sentences for sexual crimes after the incident in 2012. Convictions, though, remain rare, with victims scared to come forward, and cases get stuck for years in India's clogged-up criminal justice system. Singh's mother, Asha Devi, said Friday after the postponement that her hopes were dashed, but she would continue to fight for justice for her daughter. The World Health Organization cautioned Friday that closing borders was probably ineffective in halting the transmission of the deadly novel coronavirus from China and could even accelerate its spread. If you close official border crossings, you can lose track of people and cannot monitor anymore, WHO spokesman Christian Lindmeier told reporters in Geneva. The UN Health Agency on Thursday declared the outbreak a global health emergency, but said it was not recommending any international trade or travel restrictions and urged the numerous countries already taking such measures to reconsider. But with the disease, which has killed 213 people and infected nearly 10,000 in China, spreading to more than 20 nations, governments, businesses and worried people around the world were taking matters into their own hands. Several countries have halted cross-border traffic from China and banned entries from travelers from Wuhan, the city of central Hubei province where the virus first surfaced last month. But Lindmeier warned that countries' efforts to halt the virus by closing their borders and banning arrivals from China could be counterproductive. But the only way to control, to check fever, for example, to identify travel history, to try to monitor who is coming across the border and to see whether they have any signs of infections is through official border crossing points, AFP reported Lindmeier as saying. You are watching Janata Bulletin, and now the latest from the world of sports. Dominic Thiem will meet defending champion Novak Djokovic in Sunday's Australian Open final after defeating Alexander Zverev. The Australian won the match 3-6, 6-4, 7-6, 7-6 in a match briefly interrupted by rain and a lightning-caused power failure. The 26-year-old will now look to win his first Grand Slam after losing the past two French Open finals. German 7th-seed Zverev was bidding to reach his first Grand Slam final but made multiple unforced errors at crucial moments to lose his opportunity. Thiem will now play the 32-year-old defending champion Novak Djokovic, who has lost just 3 matches in the past 10 Australian Open tournaments. The final will be played in the Rod Laver Arena on Friday, February 2nd, Sunday. India claims a second super over win in 2 days against New Zealand as they lead the 5-match series 4-0. New Zealand had won the toss and decided to bowl first as India were bowled out for 165 runs. Ish Sodhi took 3 wickets for the Kiwis, with only Manish Pandey scoring a 50 for India. New Zealand was cruising as they were 158 for 3 in their penultimate over, but a second successive collapse in the final over pushed the game into the super over. The Kiwis scored 13 runs in 6 balls, but for the second game running, the Indian side won the match in the super over with a ball to spare. The New Zealand side has been criticised for buckling under pressure after losing 2 games in super overs, which they should have won in normal time. The 5th and the final match will be played tomorrow. We are at the end of Janata Bulletin, and the headlines once again. MCC grant favoured over any other agenda on NCP's Central Committee meeting. Most members emphasise on party's clear stance on the subject. RPP Chairman Thapa describes the government as a complete failure, accuses the government of promoting bribery and corruption in the nation. Cabinet gives a go-ahead to break the can into two units, a regulatory body and a service provider to be set up. Divided Britain sees a new dawn in historic farewell to EU, becomes the first country to leave the EU since 1973. And Dominic Thiem defeats Alexander Zverev in the Australian Open semis, sets up finals clash with defending champion Novak Djokovic. And that's all from the English News Desk for today. You can follow Janata Television and our programs on various social media platforms, including on our website janatasamachar.com. Keep watching Janata Television. Namaste.